Most guys fail at quitting corn because they're approaching it completely wrong. I spent years making these same mistakes, and here's exactly what you need to avoid those mistakes and what you need to do instead. Number one, relying on willpower. Man, this is one of those things that kind of grinds my gears. I did the same thing, don't get me wrong, all right? Because it sounds good, right? When you think of willpower, it's something that, I think especially as men, you're kind of under the influence that, man, I just got to grind, 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 figure it out. Willpower will be the answer. I just need to be stronger, right? But then you think about it and it's like, how long can that really last, right? Because you have to realize we have finite willpower. Our willpower is not infinite. And with that finite willpower, right, you have other decisions that you have to make. Whether it's, let's say you're trying to eat healthy. So, okay, I'm not going to go for the chips. Maybe I'm in the grocery store. Maybe I have some at home. I'm not going to go for the bad food, the food that's, going to cause disease in my body, all those types of things, right? So you have the willpower that basically it's gonna run out at some point in time. So if your approach is I'm just gonna willpower this thing, I'm gonna discipline myself, and that's gonna help solve my problem forever, right? The corn won't be a problem. It's probably not gonna work. And odds are, if you're watching this, you probably tried a ton of different times to use that method, and it probably hasn't worked for you. Now, can it work for some people? Maybe, but this is not something, in my opinion, that you you have to be strategic about it, right? And the people who are successful use systems, and especially, and we'll kind of get into environment a little bit later on, but this is one of those biggest mistakes, right? We're just covering mistakes right now. Do not use willpower thinking you're just going to grind things out. Man, it is a failing method, I'm telling you right now, and you probably have experienced it. Because if you change nothing about your situation and think that all you're going to do is be disciplined, it's like if you try to, let's say for example, you have a house and you have a ton of sweets, and you're not trying to buy sweets, you're not trying to eat sweets, and you have a ton of candy, chocolate, all that stuff in your cabinet, right? Yes, you can willpower yourself not to eat those things. But why, instead of doing that, just not buy it at all? Don't buy the candy at all. Don't buy the cookies, the brownies at all. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to be way easier for you to stay on point, right? And that's the point. That's the whole point of this, man. You want to make it as easy as possible for you to succeed. Don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. Number two, counting days obsessively, right? So things like NoFap and all those other things, they tell you to count the days, right? Count, count, count. Understand where you're at in this journey. Oh, when you hit 90 days, when you hit 180 days, you're going to be levitating. All these things are going to change for your life. But you got to realize a lot of that information, right, is, I think it's portrayed in good faith, but I feel like what happens when you count is you're more focused on the days than even what you're getting out of this, entire process. You're so focused on, okay, I'm on day one, I'm on day two, I'm on day three. But what happens when you relapse, right? You go back to day zero, and it feels like you start this entire cycle all over again, right? You're like, oh man, I'm back at square one. And it feels like you made no progress. So what that tells me is, and maybe what you should observe from this if you're watching this video, is that maybe it's not the best idea to be counting days, especially if it makes me obsess over each little day instead of looking at the big picture, right? Because really, when you're dealing with this, you want to zoom out, right? Zoom out and think about, okay, you know, let's stop worrying about one day and let's look at a whole month's progress. Let's look at 6 months, a year, right? Let's stop just focusing so much on one day here and there. And yes, do people count days and can it work for them? It can, but I think there's a lot better methods to do it than, posting my 30-day update. Now, if someone just wants to do that they can count it without looking at it every single day, that's one thing. But a lot of times, I feel like it backfires on people because the more you think about it, then the less you're focused on actually, achieving the success that you want, whether that's money, women, status, whatever type of success you want. Your focus is kind of in the complete opposite place. So keep that in mind, man. Counting days, not it. Not it. Okay, quitting without replacing anything, right? So a lot of times people would get into that point where, you know, basically they're trying to quit. And what happens is you have this, you got new energy, kind of, and energy is inside of you, right? Can't be created or destroyed, but you got more energy. You kind of feel charged up, and right, your default is to just go relapse, right? Go back to the corn, all of that. That's your default. But then a lot of times what people don't do is they don't have anywhere to place that energy. Like for example, right? I posted another video where, there was another channel that I was trying to build. And when I was building that, one of the most important things, that was a huge goal that I had for myself. I was so focused on, man, this is what I'm trying to do with that energy. So if you think that you're just going to, a lot of times, right, it's like you got to find a way to get rid of the energy, right? Because at the end of the day, especially as a man, you should be tired. You should be so tired that, man, you just knock out, right? And that shows that you probably gave it your all for the day, right? So people who've quit successfully, right, they find those other outlets that are healthier, right, that they can get some of that positive dopamine from, and that's not, from this place, from that content in and of itself. So keep that in the back of your mind. Again, you want to replace things. Simple as that. All right, next one. Ignoring environment. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but again, I kind of alluded to this in terms of, the sweets and all that, but if your surroundings are filled with triggers, and we talked about having sweets, candy, all of those other stuff around, it's going to make it way harder to quit. And a lot of times, right, the only thing people try to change is what they want to do, and they don't think about their environment, Now, controlling your environment can remove or even blunt the temptation, and that's going to help you make way more progress than you just trying to keep your same environment, but maybe meditating or you're doing push-ups. Even if you find a habit to replace it, if your environment is the same, the temptation itself is always going to be there for the most part. And there's probably few people that are able to, pretty much stop that temptation. So, man, keep that in mind. Again, you want to be very cognizant of your environment, right? Ideally, you want to make it as easy as possible on yourself to continue in that path, and as hard as possible to relapse, right? And the word that you need to remember is friction. Add more friction to the task that you don't want to do, the habit that you don't want to do, and create less friction for the habits you do want to do. All right, and this next one, trying to quit alone. Don't do it, right? Trying to quit alone, in my opinion, is not it, right? Because we have community, especially as humans. Man, we need a community. We need people around us, people that have been through things we've been, that we can bounce ideas off of. And speaking to people about what you're going through is super important. It just helps you, think logically, especially if you have positive people around you. That's ideally what you want. You can always ask other people for advice, just share what you're going through, and that just kind of overall just mentally makes you on point, right? Because us as humans, we're not supposed to be, these creatures that are just doing everything on our own. We don't have other people around us. Again, it's not the healthiest thing in the world for us in our brains, right? A lot of times we're meant to be around other humans and other people. So, having that one person, maybe it's your best friend, whoever it is, that one person that you can go to and talk about anything is definitely a major key. Just having that outlet, because who knows, they may even give you an idea you never thought of, a different perspective, and just having that accountability over on, again, increases your likelihood for success, right? And isolation in general, probably a lot of you have realized it. When you're around more people, you're just less likely, right, to relapse versus you being on your own. Maybe it's late at night, you're on your phone, something like that. Man, you're cooked. It's gonna be tough for you. So those are the major points. Again, we don't want to rely on willpower. We don't want to count days obsessively. We don't want to quit without replacing. Do not ignore your environment, and don't try to do it alone. Now, if you're dealing, with this basically corn-induced ED, right? You're having trouble getting it up, and you want to fix it for good. Click the link below, book a call. Let's see how I can help you. Do not have to do this on your own. Peace.